Hello, everyone on Instagram. Hello. If you're watching this later on, then hello and thank you for watching. I'm Amy, if you didn't know, and I'm on here today and every day this week to discuss different elements of my Rehab 6-week facilitator yoga rehab program. I've run a few rehab workshops over the last year and a bit now, I think, with the Yoga Teachers Forum, and they've gone brilliantly, and people have really taken a lot away from doing rehab yoga, and I felt like it was time to put in a big program, a big training program, to kind of put all of that together in one piece and give everyone the chance to create programs themselves to help their own students, to rehabilitate their own students' bodies. It seems to be something that is becoming more and more of a necessity in life, and also in the yoga world, because I think people are waking up a little bit to the idea that certain moves need to be changed and certain things need to be changed so that we can prevent and heal injuries. So that's essentially what this 6-week yoga rehab facilitator program is it is about giving you all the tools that you need to create your own rehab programs and to kind of change your skill a little bit, or upskill slightly, as they call it. So every day this week, I'll be discussing what's going to happen in each week of the rehab program. So today we're talking about week 1 because we're on Monday. So it's the first week essentially. And the first week would be focusing on troubleshooting aches and pains, looking at all the most common aches and pains that people come to your classes with, and looking at why that happens, why these common aches and pains are so common, and what we can do to start making little changes in our yoga practice. The important thing for me with this rehab program is to help everybody see that you don't need different exercises necessarily. You don't need to change everything that you're doing to facilitate a healthy, happy body. I feel like over the years recently, yoga has started to get a little bit of a bad rap because people are getting injured in it. But the thing is, it's not just yoga. It's just that people think, oh, well, they're stretching and they're getting aches and pains and they're getting injuries in yoga. Well, think about the millions of people that get injuries from doing weight training. Just nobody really wants to talk about it because everybody knows that weight training is a good thing to do. Same with any of the other kind of trainings that are out there. Injuries are possible in any form of exercise. Doesn't matter what you do. This then creates another bad rep, which is this idea that some exercises are bad for you. They're not. That's the first thing I want you to understand. Every exercise can be great for you. It all depends on how you're doing that exercise. There's even research to prove this now, that it doesn't matter what the exercise is. It's about how you do that exercise. So, as an example, back bends in yoga have got a little bit of a bad rep. Understandably so, because if you do a back bend badly or incorrectly, you could injure yourself. You could really hurt your back because you might not be using the right muscles. You might not be getting the right length in the back in order to actually do a back bend. Does that mean that back bends are bad for you? No, it means that you need to look at how you're doing your back bends and change them. It's something that I think a lot of us in the yoga world ignore a little bit because we go into back bends. Back bends are a big problem for a lot of people. We go into these back bends and we get very used to how it feels. I, for one, for many years, would go into a back bend and I would feel my back, but I kind of assumed that that was okay. I thought, well, it's a back bend. Surely I'm going to feel my back. It didn't hurt because I was young and I was pretty mobile, but I didn't realize that continuing to do back bends like that could hurt me. So it wasn't that I should stop doing back bends completely. because back bending actually is a functional movement. Being able to extend the spine in that way is a functional movement. If you look at kids, I always use kids as an example because especially babies and toddlers, they're so naturally mobile. They don't have all of this tension from stress and incorrect movement in their bodies yet. They're so supple and so soft that they can do everything with so much strength and mobility. Throughout the day, I see my son doing back bend after back bend, and it doesn't hurt him. And I can see how beautifully his spine does it, because he has an even curve in every single part of his spine. This is what we often don't see in adults when they start doing back bends, especially advanced ones like a wheel. That's kind of the biggest back bend that you could see in a way, because you're going to get a full bend of the spine. We often see just the lower part of the spine being really bent, maybe then a bit of a bend in the rest of the spine, but we don't see a completely even curve in the spine. And then people start to feel maybe some slight pinching in their lower back. Maybe they even start to feel some pinching in their upper back, or maybe they start to get a little bit of sciatica even when they're doing some of these back bends. It's quite common for these things to be experienced, but people just don't think about them. And then what tends to happen is we've been told, and I was told, to modify these poses, which is absolutely true. You can modify poses to your heart's desire to get something to feel comfortable. But what if it's not modification that somebody needs? What if it's something else? What if it's that they need to change something that's happening in their body to make that movement happen better for them? What if it's just they're not using all of their body to gain that strength in the places that they need it to create that even curve? What if it's just that they're not breathing in the right places, or getting a full breath in their standard day-to-day, and so they're getting a bit stuck in certain parts of their body, and then therefore they try and do a back bend and it's not happening, it's painful, or it's a bit uncomfortable. So you see how it doesn't matter what poses you're doing, it's about understanding how to slightly change them. The same can be said for shoulder problems. So this is another problem that a lot of people come into classes with, right? They'll tell you, I've got a frozen shoulder, or I'm just feeling pain in my shoulder. Or more common is, especially those who do a lot of yoga practices, is that they might come to class, they might get told they're going to do an arm bind of some kind. Maybe it's even just a cow, and they're doing it, and then they kind of go, oh, my shoulder, that really hurt my shoulder. But again, they don't really think about it. They kind of think, well, I got a stretch and it was really, really tight, so that's probably why it hurt my shoulder, right? That's kind of what they think, and it's also what we think. Like, oh, maybe that's just normal because I'm getting this problem here. And it's often in poses that people start to experience those aches and pains. It's not necessarily outside of the yoga class that they experience pain, which is also why sometimes people don't even tell you, or they don't even know it. They don't know that there's a problem in their body, or a something that's holding them back in their body. They don't really know that that is the case because nobody's told them. And it's not until they start moving their bodies in these ways that they feel something in their body is blocking that movement. Something in their body is stopping them from being able to get that movement properly and freely. So again, does that mean if we take someone into this bind that we need to totally modify it? Does it mean that that's not good for them? No, it means that, again, there might be something that they just need to do before doing that movement, maybe in their day-to-day, to try and get that movement to work a little bit better for them. What if there were things that you could do if you were planning a whole class around shoulders, chest opening, all that kind of stuff, which, you know, a lot of the time we do? What if there were moves that you could put into your classes before you go into these big binds to help people try and get those movements a little bit more freely. Maybe by doing some of these movements beforehand, you'll then help people's bodies to allow their bodies to get into that position. Or if that's not going to happen yet, because maybe they're really tight in their chest, their shoulders just aren't moving well enough for them, but you've spent half of the lesson teaching them what their shoulders should actually be doing, what their chest should actually be doing, what their arms should actually be doing, so that when they come to do these binds, they don't force it. They don't try and force themselves into those positions. Instead, they go, oh, you know what? I'm going to stop at this point because you've told me that if my shoulder doesn't do this kind of a movement like this, then I need to change it slightly and wait until my body is able to get into that position for me to go into that bind fully. What if just those little tiny differences could make a huge difference to someone down the line and in their daily life? As an example, I have a client who came to me with sciatica and back pain. And as we were moving and working with each other, we started to realize that perhaps part of their problem was to do with their upper back and their shoulders. And then they told me that every time they would reach up to grab something out of the cupboard, their partner would reach up and somehow manage to get further, even though they were a lot taller than their partner. Something in their body was stopping them from being able to actually reach as high as their partner could, even though their partner was much smaller than them. It's understanding these little things in people's bodies that can make your teaching so different. And it means then that different yoga practices can all be restorative, rehabilitating, and can all help to facilitate somebody's physical growth and prevent aches and pains and problems down the line. You know, there are so many different styles of yoga out there. We've got Vinyasa, we've got Ashtanga, we've got Yin, we've got, oh my God, so many, Anusara, all these different types and styles of yoga. And I'm not saying that we need to come away from any of them. I love them for different reasons. You know, sometimes doing a really lovely slow Yin practice can be so wonderful and rejuvenating for the body, and sometimes doing a nice fast flowy Vinyasa style can be also amazing. The problem only comes with these styles of yoga, all these different styles of yoga, when we're repetitively doing the same movements and not seeing any changes. We're not seeing any differences in our bodies or our students' bodies. Another example would be people experiencing knee pain in things like lunges or squats, chair poses. They're really common. So many times you get people going into squats, chair poses, lunges, warrior poses, and they complain about their knee. Or the more common thing, which is again not necessarily pain at all, is that you see people going, or maybe you even feel it, going into a chair pose, staying in there for a while. They come out of it and they either rub the front of their thigh or they rub the front of their hip. Both of those things are things that we shouldn't be feeling in those poses. It shouldn't be all quads. Yes, okay, we are working the quads when we are doing squats, when we are doing warriors. Definitely, they are an active muscle in that movement, but it shouldn't be all quads, and it shouldn't be all, well, shouldn't really be hip at all. When you see or feel yourself coming out of those positions and you feel like you want to grab the hip joint, the front of the hip crease, that is a sign that something is not working for you, that something in the body needs to change slightly. So again, what if we could make those slight changes? What if we could come into squats and feel free in them? What if we could come into it and go, oh my God, that actually felt amazing for my back? Or I could really feel my feet. My knees didn't hurt me at all. And you come out of it, and instead of feeling like you've closed your hips, you come out of it and go, wow, I feel like my hip is so open and I can walk better. I can run better. What if all of these really classic yoga moves could make you feel 100 times better in just that move. It is possible, I promise you, because I've experienced it myself and I've experienced it with my clients. It's just about making those little changes. What if, I'm just trying to go through the different aches and pains that we might feel. So what about the neck? The neck is another classic place that people feel pain. One of those particular moves would be shoulder stands, because we're putting a lot of pressure on the neck. Now, this one is maybe a little bit controversial in my feeling, because if you have seen talks with me in the fairly recent past, I've told you I won't do headstands and I won't do shoulder stands anymore. And that is kind of still true, because it's not really a functional movement. We never really need to apply weight into that part of our neck. It's just not really necessary for our body, and it puts weight in a part of our body that's not really supposed to hold weight in that way. Now, headstands, maybe I might be slightly changing my view on, because if done correctly, you're not putting a humongous amount of weight on your neck. You're actually lifting your body away from your head. That could be applied in the same thought to the amount of, think about all the women, men, people that we have seen carrying heavy loads on their head. That's a pretty common thing to see in countries where they have to go and walk very, very long distances, right? And the reason is we carry a load really well if we carry our body in the center. If you're carrying your body too far forward, or you're carrying your body too far backwards, carrying a load on your head is not going to be very comfortable. It's not going to be very easy. The same would be said for doing a headstand. If you go into a headstand and you're not loading yourself in the center, and you're not using some muscle strength or able to use muscle strength to hold yourself up, then you could be applying too much pressure into the neck. Then you come out of it and you see people going, "Ooh, my neck," or "Ooh, my head," right? So in those instances, maybe we need to come away from those poses for a while and look at strengthening and balancing the body so that we can do those without creating problems, without causing pain. Shoulder stands, as I said, could be a little bit controversial because we don't really need to apply so much pressure into the neck. But as I've said, it's now proven research that there is no bad exercise. So it's all about how you perform that exercise. So is there then a way to perform a shoulder stand that doesn't apply a ton of pressure into our C7, that kind of big lumpy part of the neck? Yes, we can use props to help us do that. And we should have movement in our spine, strength in our core that allows us to hold ourselves up away from the back of the neck and allows us to get a decent amount of extension or flexion, in the spine. It's that same idea in that movement, that if you don't have a balanced curve or a balanced movement in the spine, you're not going to be able to do that pose without it creating problems somewhere down the line. So if you're always feeling like you come into a shoulder stand and you feel that humongous stretch in your upper spine, perhaps that's telling you something. Perhaps that's saying that upper part of your spine is a little bit stuck. Maybe you need to move it more. Maybe you need to create some more mobility in the part of that spine. Maybe part of the problem is that the chest is super tight and that's stopping you from being able to get that mobility in the upper part of the spine. So maybe we need to start working on opening the chest, which is not just down to stretching. Opening the chest, comes from regaining some balance in the body, some strength in the back, some strength in the shoulder blades and in the sides of the ribs. And that will help you to open up the chest. All of these things start to kind of come together as we're going through the rehab program, because I will be giving you all of the ways to get those things, to get more mobility in the upper spine, to get a beautiful even curve in your spine, whether it be an extension or flexion, to get strength in our core, strength in our arms, strength in our glutes, all of these beautiful and important places. Actually, talking about strengthening the glutes leads me on to another point I wanted to mention, which is some cues in yoga and in other exercise practices, but I do see it a lot in yoga, are not great for helping people get the right movements. One of them is relax your glutes in a back bend. We need our glutes to work in a back bend. If you're doing a bridge, if you're doing a wheel, if you're doing any kind of a back bend and you relax your glutes, you've got nothing supporting your back. So we need our glutes. We need lovely, strong glutes to get a beautiful, long, even curve of the spine. And we need lovely, strong glutes to support us in walking, to support us in sitting, to support us in standing, in our day-to-day. And this is why, again, there's no need to come away from doing a yoga practice if you're starting to find problems in your yoga practice or you're feeling aches and pains. We just need to look at the why. Why is this happening? And what can we do to change that? And it's not all going to come down to using bricks, as in stacking yourself up. Yes, that can help in some cases. It's not going to do with taking away a load of poses. It's going to do with adding other exercises, adding other poses beforehand to facilitate a better movement in one practice or one exercise or one pose. Another problem that people might experience are foot, ankle, and wrist pains. That's a really common one. Think about the amount of time that we spend on our hands and our knees and our feet in a yoga practice. I remember years back going to any kind of a yoga class and being told to stay in something like a warrior pose or a wide-legged forward bend, standing forward bend, anything that required my feet and my ankles to be strong. Oh my goodness, the pain. I experienced so much pain in my ankles, but pain in a not necessarily bad way. It was just, they were really, really working. And these poses weren't necessarily working for me. Then I also get so many people complaining of wrist pain in hands and knees in downward facing dog. And their reason for that usually is, bless them, their weight. They'll turn to me and go, oh, my wrists are killing me, but I know it's because I'm just too heavy. No, it's not that. It's, okay, if you are clinically obese, it's going to put a bit more pressure on your wrists for sure. Maybe that will have something to do with it. If you're not clinically obese and you are maybe a bit overweight, you should really be able to handle your own body weight on your wrists and on your feet. So there's something else going on. Usually what it is a lack of strength in your core, because you're dumping into the wrists, you're dumping into your ankles and your feet when you're standing. And holding yourself up in these strong standing poses is just really difficult for your ankles. Holding yourself up on your hands and knees is just really difficult for your wrists. So again, does that mean that we need to come away from hands and knees? No. Does it mean that we need to use a whole load of props? Maybe. Sometimes, yes. Maybe that can be really helpful. But more likely, it means that there are things that we need to do around those movements to make those poses stronger, to make the wrists stronger, to stop them from hurting so much. Same for the feet. So yeah, they all can have things to help them get stronger as we move around them. What if you've got people coming to your classes complaining of plantar fasciitis? This is so common. There are a number of things that contribute to plantar fasciitis, one of them being shoes. It's not the be all and end all, but definitely shoes don't help unless you are and have been wearing barefoot shoes for most of your life. If you have been, you probably don't have plantar fasciitis because you've been taking great care of your feet. I'm not saying go out and run and buy yourself some barefoot shoes, because you need time to be able to use those to get them to work properly. But again, maybe we need to look at the feet. Maybe we need to look at what's happening above the feet and why your feet are struggling and why you're getting plantar fasciitis and things like that. Maybe we need to look at whether you have bunions and if we can fix those bunions, which is absolutely possible. And again, totally possible in a yoga practice. Especially if you're going to be barefoot in yoga, which we always should be, because it's a beautiful and perfect time to be barefoot. So yeah, it's again about finding things around those exercises and those poses that can facilitate those movements and take away those pains, those aches, those injuries, and prevent them. So that's what we will be looking at in the first week of the yoga rehab facilitator training. We will be looking at all of these common injuries, the poses that tend to create the most problems, and working with each other. The thing that's going to be really cool about this facilitator training is, even though it's online, I think that often worries people because we're so used to doing things in person. Being in person is a wonderful thing, and being able to teach in person is a wonderful thing. But let's face it, the world is changing. Things are going more online. And if we want to teach a wider audience, being online can be an amazing way to do that. But also learning to teach online can be an incredible thing. I have learned so much from teaching people online since the pandemic, because I've had to find other ways to help people. I've had to find other ways to see those problems in people's bodies and to help them feel those things in their bodies a little bit better without being able to touch them. I mean, what if you have people in your classes who have been through some sort of trauma and don't want to be touched? Or what if you have people in your class who, for religious reasons, don't want to be touched? Then what do? Then how do you help them? Well, learning to do this stuff online is going to teach you how. And we're going to be working with each other. So this is the other beautiful thing about this program, is we're going to be going off into little pairs and putting all of the things that we're learning into practice in every single session. So it'll be like you're getting a huge amount of teacher training and case studies, in a sense. Rather than me going out and finding a bunch of case studies, we're going to be each other's case studies, because I can guarantee we all have our own problems in our bodies. And unfortunately, as movement specialists or movement teachers, we do tend to have the most compensations in our bodies, more so really than our own students, because they're not doing what we're doing, which is usually doing the same thing on the same side all the time, doing these poses over and over again in maybe not the best way. So we're going to be the best case studies to use. And it's going to be so much fun. We're going to go off, we're going to work with each other, we're going to put all of that into practice. And you are going to feel so confident by the end of this program that you can go out and create classes or programs specific to people's problems. If you have loads of people coming to your classes with shoulder problems, you are going to know exactly what you need to do to create whatever length of program you want to create, whether it be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, a year, whatever you want. You are going to be able to put things into practice straight away with your students and with your clients. So it's going to be really great fun, and I really cannot wait to teach it. I will be giving a slightly more in-depth free taster for the training on the 11th, yes, this Friday at 1:30. The link to register for it is in my bio, in my link tree. So just head over and click free taster for the Rehab Yoga program. And if you can't make it live, no worries, it will be recorded and sent out to you. And I'll be giving you a little bit more of a taster. So there'll be some really wonderful little free things to take away that you can again start to put into practice now. And if you already know that you want to go and do the training, then go and book on, because you've got until the end of this month to get a early bird price. Again, head over to the link tree in my bio and click on the Rehab 6-week Rehab Yoga Facilitator training and go and book it now. I will see you tomorrow, and I'll be talking about the second week of the rehab training, where we'll be looking at postures and our bodies, and going into a little bit more detail on that. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. I will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. live on Instagram. Bye, guys.